Hey everybody, welcome back to Insider Guides webinars. This is not actually a webinar, this is an industry chat. We're going to do a few of these where we intersperse the webinars with one-on-ones with really interesting people. We've got here today David Bycroft, who is the founder of the Australian Homestay Network. We've got David on a call today because industry experts are telling us that we can expect thousands of homeless international students in the next few months. And that's not a good thing. And these are students that have lost their part-time jobs. They can no longer afford rent. And while there is a rent moratorium in place, there's also a range of loopholes that means students can still be evicted. For example, if you're a flatmate living in a share house who's not on the head lease, and what's going to happen next to them. But I wanted to talk to David because his team has launched the International Student Support Network, where the community is encouraged to open up their homes and take on international student tenants in like a homestay capacity at a discounted rate. And David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, James.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about about the evolution of the Australian Homestay Network from hosting asylum seekers in 2012 to now providing support for international students during COVID-19?
Yeah, so a lot of people will remember 2012 when we had a lot of asylum seekers in the detention centres and many more coming. So we put our hand up and worked with the Department of Immigration and were able to get asylum seekers out of detention and into homestay as a partial solution to easing the problem in the detention centres, number one, but also finding the asylum seekers a safe, warm, welcoming place to live that had meals, networks and mentor. And we watched that work really well. So when we saw this emerging problem for international students, we thought that's exactly what we need now, low cost accommodation.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a very timely solution, and we had Phil Honeywood on the phone on the webinar just a few days ago, who was talking about this exact issue of what will happen if students aren't looked after. So we are hearing from both students and industry contacts that there will be homeless international students expected to be evicted. How will Australian Homestay Network actually be able to support these students?
Yeah, so over the years, we've been placing roughly 60,000 international students in what we call normal homestay arrangements. But the beauty of homestay is that you get a person with a room, you have meals included generally, and in this product that we've designed for our program to help solve this problem, we are making sure meals are included. We also make sure that they don't have to spend their own money because they're living in a household where the electricity is paid, the internet is paid. That, you know, like we're trying to get a package together where they can basically be part of a host family or a host and be part of that infrastructure, which gives them companionship as well. So we just think it's potentially the best solution for many students who are struggling. The trick for us is to find the hosts who will do it at lower prices. But when we launched the asylum seeker program in 2012, we had 5,000 applications in 2 months of Australians who were genuinely interested in helping someone out who had a problem.
Wow, so 5,000, that's quite a lot. Do you think you'll have that same level of demand now?
Well, I don't think it will be as large because of the shutdown issues that are happening in Australia and other parts of the world. But we still have that database of 5,000 who put their hand up for the asylum seekers. So next week we'll be writing to those people and saying, hey, Houston, we have another problem and we need some help with international students now. So we're hoping those people are still out there and realising that the student's only one step away from an asylum seeker at the moment, and we just need to get them back activated. So we hope to activate a proportion of those and take some of the pressure off the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great initiative. Obviously, it's a bit frightening that we've reached this point where, as you're saying, that they're actually not too far away from feeling like an asylum seeker, sort of in that state of limbo. Let's talk about pricing. How much does it cost for a student to, who's actually paying for this, and how much does a student have to pay to do this?
Well, we've had education providers contact us already who are willing to pay because they're receiving funding to try to help students out who are in need. So that's a positive. The students who can't afford commercial arrangements are at least going to see this come down to, we think, about $160 per week with meals included, so that there's no bond to pay. There's a 4-week minimum, but we will vary that for different situations. So we're looking to be on a case by case, and our company will oversee the whole arrangement. It will come with all of our insurances, all of our network supports, and the host should feel pretty comfortable that they're well supported. And the student. And I'll just add, we give the student updates all the time about social distancing, school closures. Like, we're always staying in touch with what they need to know.
Some of these students are at various levels in their problem right now. Are there short-term options, long-term options? How's that going to work?
Yeah, we're looking to try to fit in with each case and individualise it. So if there was an emergency overnighter or 3-nighter or 5 nights, we would be looking for hosts that have put their hand up and just saying, look, we've got somebody, it's not going to be for a long term, and they just need help right now for this next week, and then they fly home, or they've got something organised with the school. So we are treating it on a case-by-case basis. But because we think that this current restrictions are going to be in place for at least another 4 weeks and maybe much longer, we want to try to get the students settled. And we know from experience that we want at least a 4-week placement to see how that goes. And it could end up being a much longer term placement because everybody's happy.
Wow. So it really is a matter now of just finding families who are going to open their doors now. So, I mean, one of the things about managed student accommodation is they do get that level of controlled support. Can you tell us about the support that AHN would provide to a student who's going through this process?
Yeah, look, our team is experienced, as I said, and we have people in every major education location in Australia. So, you know, first we've got to find the host. So once we can find the host, we do the host training to make sure they're on par with what we're doing. We make sure that the placement is properly insured, just in case some liability issue occurs. We also make sure that the student is welcomed properly, and that's really important. And once the student is settling, we stay in connection with both the host and student during that placement, where either can call us if they have any concern, and one of our trained and experienced operators who is local will be able to help them. From our experience of 60,000 placements, there's not much we haven't seen. So we basically are looking to try to help them manage through any early stages of relationship issues, or understanding dishwashers or fridges or anything that might go wrong. So we're used to that. And once you get through those first few weeks, usually it's a very, very settled, comfortable and happy arrangement, which will also reduce the mental health potential issues that will come out of this current situation.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, I've had students contact me. We had a webinar yesterday with the Fair Work Ombudsman where we had over 1,000 students inside it, and they were talking about some of the issues relating to mental health, about losing their jobs and things like that. So these are going to get more pronounced as we move through this. What about the host families in terms of support for them?
Yeah, so the hosts get the same sort of approach. So we value our hosts first. So we make sure that not everybody who applies will get selected as a host. They have to be in a reasonable location for the student to start with. They also have to be of the right culture to work with us to solve the problem. And that's why we've isolated this program. We will only attract the people who are doing it for the right reason and not for the money. So by getting those people sorted, and we learned this during the asylum seeker program, you actually get a far better experience for the student, and you get a host who's willing to learn as much as we can help them with, and then contact us if they need a hand with anything. But it's rarely a complaint about the money or the food. It's more of, how do I do this in this situation? You know, and we've had the experience to be able to handle that. So hosts will get full support. In fact, we want to work with education providers who need help for their students to try to find hosts in their own local network pool as well. So that we want to find people who want to do this for the right reason and want to be part of the solution rather than sitting at home perhaps wondering what to do. So this will help fill their day having a guest who can help them interact with another culture.
Yeah, that's yeah, I can certainly see the benefits there, but obviously, we needed to have a good vetting process. What's the vetting process like to find the right host?
So first up, they have to apply, and then we go through a process of police clearances first for Australian security checks, and we also make sure they've done an online training program before we then do an interview. Now, normally we do interviews in the home, but we've changed that for this period where we do the Zoom interview or the Skype interview, and we make sure we go through a process so that one of our trained host inspectors has said this person would be really good. Now, again, when we did the asylum seeker program, we had a far better quality host pools coming through because they knew what they were walking into, low fees and potentially a person with a problem. So those people are genuine usually, so they pass the host criteria really quickly, and then we have a room available, and we can turn all of that around in a matter of a week or two from when we first engage.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day because when the Prime Minister had made those comments the other week about how international students should go home if they can't support themselves, I did see a large part of the community come out on social media saying, well, hold on a second, we don't necessarily agree with that approach. And there was this lovely sense of humanity that came out from people who wanted to genuinely help international students and foreign workers who are left high and dry. So yeah, it sounds like this could definitely be a really good approach. But are you, what might happen though in a circumstance where a host family is actually no longer able to accommodate this student for a range of reasons? They themselves contract coronavirus, or they've lost their own job, or something like that.
So again, we've been used to handling these situations with the volume of normal homestay placements that we've made, so that we would expect from this process to have a whole lot of hosts available in any region where there is a significant population around an education provider, for instance. So that we always have a 2-week notice period required, so that gives us time to first settle everyone down if there's any issue, but second, to make sure that we've got an alternate option for the student. And we see ourselves working very closely with education providers on this, and also the various study groups around the states, to make sure that we're working hand in hand as problems arise.
Okay. Obviously there's some students who are left in a situation where they may not be with an institution anymore, or they may have to, they're not sure how their institution is really supporting them. How are you getting to the students to tell them about this? Are you only taking students that have been referred by an institution or provider, or are you open to working directly with the students themselves?
Yeah, we worked on this fairly heavily over Easter, actually, to get the selection criteria and how we're working it. There will also be, we suspect there will be more demand than supply, even though we're going to do our best to activate a large host network. We agree with you that there's going to be, as time goes on, there's going to be many more students affected by this than perhaps the industry can handle. So that we're trying to get ahead of it and try to build enough hosts so that there will be a lot of options for people. If someone can't afford it, we would have to work with the education provider, the government, and try to get the minimum fees we need for that transaction to occur. We don't believe we'll be putting anyone out on the streets.
Yeah. Yes, I really hope that the federal government does create this hardship fund for this exact reason, because then I can see a situation where those institutions get some of those funds and do things like this and actually help these students directly by supporting them and putting them in homestay. If we talk about...
Well,
sorry, you go.
So I was just going to say, well, you know, the reality is you're looking at a package. Now, there is a small placement fee for the organisation up front, but we've halved that. It's about $150 to get a placement. But when you look at the 4-week program or the price per week, you're talking about less than $25 a day, including 3 meals, accommodation, electricity, internet, and having a friend that you're living with that knows all of the things they need to know to help you feel settled. So it's probably one of the best packages ever seen for an international student.
Right. Well, if we talk about this in the context of the entire accommodation sector for international students in Australia, there's so many different things that are happening right now. We heard from Study New South Wales the other day that the federal government was considering basically pushing all students in residential colleges out on the street because it was considered a non-essential service having a residential college. How do you feel that this sector can best support international students right now?
Yeah, so the reason we've called this program the International Student Support Network is because we plan on joining groups like yours, James, and saying, hey, be part of this. Let's all drive this, because the more hosts that we can get right now, the less problems we will have when and if government make decisions that put more pressure on the industry. Hopefully we've got great people stopping bad decisions being made at government level, but we don't control that. So right now, we believe we've got a chance to build enough rooms to take a lot of pressure off the current situation. And we want it to be a network approach. I've already had discussions with groups like Scape, who I know are also interested in solving problems. And we would hope that when we ran out of supply, we might be able to have arrangements similar with other providers who have empty rooms, and just, you know, find a solution for each student as we can see fit. But it's not a small project. We've done this before with asylum seekers. There's a lot more hand-holding in this project than you know, any other typical accommodation placement. So we're going to need to work closely with government, industry, education providers, even education agents, and just say, okay, you're all part of the International Student Support Network. We're not a corporation, it's just a brand, but we're wanting to use that brand and have members say we're part of that, you know, and just say let's push, and let's push hard.
That's right. So, I mean, we are well and truly in this together. And yeah, I think the sector, certainly from what I can see, the sector's doing a very good job of galvanizing into one. A very strong sense of support is really coming through. And it's fantastic to see. Obviously, we're in challenging times, but yeah, look, I mean, that's fantastic to hear all this information. And I think the sector would be really curious to hear about it. So thanks so much for your time, David.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to hear from anybody that wants to find out more information, and we'll send a release out so that people can find what they need to know.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.